And we're back with more News Talk Saga 960. So very glad you could join us on this edition of the Mark Petronas Show. Well, he's back. And I speak, of course, of Donald J. Trump back on Twitter. He's also got somewhere in the neighborhood of 86, 87 million followers, just like that. Now, Trump hasn't exactly tweeted yet. Will he or won't he? Well, there was a vote done online. This is why I love Elon Musk. This would never have happened, ever. It would never have happened if he hadn't taken over this complete control of Twitter. But here it is. He had a vote, an online vote, election of sorts, one that the left just couldn't steal. And the yes side won by a couple of percentage points. The question was reinstate former President Trump. Well, 51.8% said absolutely yes, go for it. 48.2% said no. Let's bring in Daniel Bordman of the National Telegraph. He's a journalist, and I know he has some thoughts about this. Welcome to the show once again, Daniel.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be more fun. Twitter has now increased its fun percentage by about 15% once Trump starts tweeting, which I am sure he will. That should go up to 32.4%. This is according to the National Telegraph heavy computing system I just invented. But yeah, it's gonna be, Twitter, the new Elon Musk Twitter, I think, is appropriately the Thunderdome. Okay, if you want, no one should get their feelings hurt on Twitter. Okay, you're there to yell at people you don't like, or to follow your sports teams, or to tweet silly things. We need to bring it back to what it was, which is a place where people tell jokes and spread ideas. And the fact that that they banned Trump for basically just being someone that the establishment didn't like was ridiculous, because whatever precedent applied to Donald Trump didn't apply to the Ayatollah Khomeini, who has 5 different accounts in different languages, where he threatens to nuke the world every few years or so. So this is a good development. I think he should be back. Other people should come back. I want to see Project Veritas and James O'Keefe coming back. They got kicked off for exposing big tech censorship, and then they were just deleted by the establishment. They needed to have a voice within mainstream social media. So I see this is all a very good sign, and all the left wing journalists who are leaving to Mastodon. So they left to Mastodon 2 weeks ago, and they're still here. Mastodon, it's not going to work. Parler's not going to work. True Social's not going to work. None of these things are going to work because there's not a large enough user base. The reason why Elon Musk was smart enough to know he had to buy Twitter is because professional athletes, your favorite bands, Taylor Swift, comedians, people who are not political are on Twitter for non-political reasons to make up a large user base. Twitter isn't just politics, although some people, get absorbed in it. But you cannot have something where it's this is just for right-wing politics site. That's why Parler's not going to work. Granted, Amazon servers did, screw them over, but same thing with Mastodon, right? You can't just have a site, even though there are millions of people who hate Trump, you can't just have an I hate Donald Trump site. That's not enough to, if it just, every tweet's what? Trump bad, Hillary good, election denial is terrible, except Hillary had the election in 2016 stolen from her. Okay, there's every Mastodon tweet you need to read. There's no variety.
He instantly has 86 million plus Twitter
and
followers.
And I have to follow him 5 different times for it to stick. So there's real discrimination. It should be.
Will he tweet
over 100 million?
Will he tweet?
Oh yes. Yes.
Okay, how do you know that? Because he's got Truth Social. He's still trying to boost that platform. Why undermine his own platform?
Trump has True Social. That is true. But Trump does not have very good impulse control. He has 83 million followers right here. The second he tweets, it's going to go over 100 million. Donald Trump likes to listen to the sound of Donald Trump's voice. Donald Trump likes attention. If Donald Trump wants to become the president of the United States, he might understand that he has to reach more people than just the ones on True Social. So Donald Trump will be back on Twitter. I will be willing to stake a good amount of money and my reputation on the fact that I do see Donald Trump tweeting again. I think he will. I mean, come on. Do you really?
He's running for president again. I mean, give me a break. He wants to reach as many people as possible. I mean, how do you? I agree with you on the impulse control thing, but I think at the bottom line, he is running for president. He's already announced that. So how do you say no to having that massive platform in which he can easily reach 100 million people and drive the bought off media crazy? I mean, that's
Yeah,
the added bonus.
I mean, yes, he has True Social. So like he wants to, I could see him coming on Twitter and saying True Social is the best platform. Twitter is stupid. Elon, cried to me and said he wanted to buy True Social, but I said no. And then he bought Twitter instead. What a loser, right? You could see some of this being the start of it. And, True Social is great. Much better interface, great interface, the greatest interface. Twitter interface is stupid. Everyone comes to True Social. But then this would just be I think the caveat for him to start tweeting again and, yelling at, the dictators in North Korea and Iran, getting in fights with, John McCain's family, all the Trump classics of the good and the bad that we are used to on, late night covfefe 3 a.m. cryptic tweets that will set off the QAnon people. He's onto it. Obama's about to be arrested, and have the rest of us going, what the hell is he talking about? But this is it's like it's a cue like the Gladiator Maximus gif of "Are you not entertained?" This is what it's for. I think Elon knows what he's. I think there's a bit of marketing genius on Elon here too. Twitter engagement's never been higher. This whole Twitter is dying stuff is just driving more engagement to Twitter. Like the way I see left-wing blue checkmark journalists, the checkmark's been freed up. When I see a left-wing blue checkmark journalist saying I'm deleting my Twitter account or I'm leaving and going to Mastodon, whatever, this is the same thing as in high school when one of the pretty girls said I'm deleting my Facebook and I can't handle social media anymore. Goodbye. It's like I will. One, no one cares. Two, see you next week. There is no way that any of them are going anywhere. They all understand this. They enjoy yelling at the world as much as the rest of us. And I think the world would be a better place if we all admitted that we just enjoy yelling at each other on Twitter. And it's just Twitter. So, don't take it too seriously. There are great things you can do.
I have to ask because what Elon Musk did is fantastic. I mean, let's not lose sight of the fact that 16 million people voted online in a fairly democratic way. A huge number decided, yes, this would be a good thing to bring him back. 48+% decided against it. The majority rules. I mean, to me, this is brilliant. What does this portend? In your view, what does this point to in the future? I mean, is this gonna be the way that decisions are made now? You just put it out on Twitter, and it doesn't have to be related to Twitter. It could be related to something completely different. And literally tens of millions of people will just go online on Twitter and vote yay or nay as to how they think things should play out. What does this point to in terms of decision making going forward?
I don't think that's what it points to. I see this more as a showmanship tool that Elon Musk successfully instrumented here, where I don't think any decision, like tough decision that Elon wants to make, I think Elon will make it. But for decisions that are very public and he might want to manufacture a result and some buildup and some hype around to draw more attention to his company, Twitter, I do think we will see polls like this in the future. Things of like, modern Twitter features, like, should, how many edits should you get on a tweet? Just one or unlimited, right? Stuff like that, where the people, like things that don't really matter, or other things that maybe Elon could go one way or the other on, and not things that would drum up some anticipation, drum up some histrionics from the establishment media, and then he can make the decision, say it's the people, and have people debate the merits of making decisions like this, right? So this is a brilliant driver of traffic on a lot of different means. One, you have the anticipation for Donald Trump. Two, you have the results, so everyone's like getting in on it, like trying to stop Trump or bring Trump back. And then three, you have people now debating the Vox Populi, Vox Dei. Like, you have people debating, is this a good means of making decisions? Should be Elon be leaving up to people? It's like, right? So where are they having this discussion? on
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But to me, this gives them enormous power, and this will help Twitter survive because, of course, now they've had how many people just walked out now? I mean, he fired a bunch of people, including some people online, and then other people said, "Well, we can't work under these conditions; they're gone." And so people said, "Well, Twitter's in big trouble. Here's Musk having all sorts of problems." But to me, this is a way of saying, I'm taking it to the people. Let the people decide. Last time I checked, another 15 million people joined Twitter. So, yeah, some disgruntled liberals are, you see them whining on Twitter all the time. They go on there and talk about what a terrible platform it is and how they're going to leave, but they never do. And
No, because
so
10,000 people, you get in your establishment, you say, I'm leaving Twitter, it's a hellscape, 10,000 likes. And you're like, ooh, 10,000 likes, endorphin hit. And you're back the next day to complain again. And like there's a lot of good that you can do on Twitter outside of just like yelling at people and spreading like shenanigans. But Twitter has Twitter Spaces where you can all get like the Twitter Spaces are a lot more high quality than the Twitter discourse because it's hard to have serious discourse in 280 characters or less, right? You can have threads and all that. It's been done before. I've put out a couple. But you have these Twitter Spaces where people can get together and share ideas. Twitter provides an important platform for people in countries that it's hard to have voice. Like I know a lot of Iranians who are using VPNs to get onto Twitter now to inform people what's going on in their country. They come on these Twitter Spaces with us. So it is an important platform to sort of protect and keep and keep free. Because Facebook, the Meta company, Facebook and Instagram, has been infiltrated by the Iranian regime, and people who post about it there are getting demonetized, censored. Videos are being removed with certain hashtags. So that's a Zuckerberg company, and
they're in big trouble though, Daniel.
Yeah.
They're in big trouble. They're laying people off. Their Twitter, their stock price has been taking a hammering. Their profits are down. This is a company that's in big trouble. So, and every tech company has been getting hammered lately, including Amazon. Their stock price is way down. Google.
Yeah, Amazon was once ever the lockdowns went away, Amazon's going to go down because basically what the lockdowns were is mandating Amazon making trillions and trillions of dollars. And then so the people who did this could complain about Amazon making trillions of dollars of the wage gap and the disparities and all that. So Amazon coming down is probably a sign that the world's getting back to normal and we need less online shopping. People are more willing to go out into the world and get things again. But the other thing, the Facebook thing is fascinating. As someone who's like, in the news industry and Facebook is like the world's #1 news site. People get a lot of their news from Facebook. Zuckerberg did the thing where he gave in to the lefties when they said, Donald Trump used Facebook successfully and right-wingers are using Facebook successfully. You got to do something. And instead of Zuckerberg understanding, okay, our platform's really a place for like middle-aged people to share news and like pictures of their kids. They're like, okay, we're going to start to depress all this news and political content on Facebook. And it's like, well, that's your platform, really. Like, just admit what you are. So Facebook tried to say, no, we're like going to do a virtual reality place where everyone can hang out in cyberspace. And it's like, no, we're like, people are there to like, share news and fight the deep state. Like, just give in. That's what your company.
The left can't stand an even playing field. That's why they're rigging elections. And so they're not going to be happy because I see what just transpired with Musk, Twitter, the reinstatement of Donald Trump is he's going to come under attack now by those same deep staters who see him as a threat. They're all about control and shutting their critics down. They're demonic. Here is Jordan Peterson's tweet when he got, and kudos to him for having a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he's back. And here he is talking again. I don't think he should have ever been kicked off, but this is going to drive the lefties completely around the bend. You know it, and I know it. So this is going to be online warfare, Daniel.
Yeah, the only way they could get their points across is by silencing the other side. And Peterson, I believe, got banned for the transgender stuff, right? If you're not allowed to say that, I think biological males are men, and when they claim to be women, treat them with respect and like don't hunt them down. By the way, the stats all say that transgender people are the least likely to be murdered among our population. So this nonsense that they're pushing is absolutely insane. But he got, the only way the left can win arguments, especially on the gender identity and stuff, is just to make the other side illegal. And in order to do that, you have to have complete hegemony within the establishment. And Facebook went along with it, and Twitter went along with it, and the New York Times, Washington Post, the fact checkers, Snopes all went along with it. And then boom, Elon came in with $44 million, bought Twitter, and broke up the establishment. This is the first time we have a crack in the establishment. So you're going to see a pretty vicious lashing out from the censorious authoritarians who maintain power. And good. This is one of the reasons I think a lot of people support Elon Musk is, I don't have to support everything he says or does or whatever, or think he's a genius or, buy Dogecoin or any of that. I just have to think that, I want to see a breakup in the control of the narrative by the establishment. And the fact that Twitter has gone and become a free speech platform where you're going to hear things you don't like and things you do like, and it's not going to be run by the New York Times editorial board. I think that's great.
Daniel Bordman joining me on Saga 960. Daniel is with the National Telegraph, independent media, still being pressured by Bill C-11. They're not going to give up on that. I guess nobody should have thought that they were going to give up on that. But the implications, obviously, for organizations like yours, Daniel, is potentially devastating. What happens to the National Telegraph if this pig of a bill ends up becoming law?
It's just impossible to say. It essentially puts us at the mercy of the government. I mean, we cover a lot of Canadian content, and we're very clearly Canadian in our mannerisms. As I say, the way Bill C-11 is pushed is it's said that you should type in, you're in Saskatchewan, and you type in Ben Shapiro into YouTube, and it comes up, did you mean Canadian fast-talking Jew Daniel Bordman? And they come to me because I'm the Canadian one, and you should be watching Canadian content. That's the way it's pitched. But no one actually believes that this is what's going to happen. This is basically a hammer by the government to say you're not Canadian content. So because we probably have an article arguing against the Bill C-4 gender identity stuff. Well, this is un-Canadian. We're now un-Canadian because of the views we hold, and we could be suppressed. So it's basically giving power to the Liberal government to put their finger on the scale here and there. And I am not naive enough to think that just because we are a Canadian company, the federal government will treat us any kinder. I have a feeling that the National Telegraph will face significant pushback from the Canadian government, whereas an organization like the New York Times, which is distinctly not Canadian, it's in the names, will be promoted. So I think Canadian content will likely not to be determined by proximity to Canada and covering Canadian issues, but rather by the values an organization holds and whether or not the Liberals determine that to be Canadian.
Got to ask you about this from Justice Minister Daniel Lametti. For the first time in Canadian history, Canada's history, we have repealed mandatory minimum sentences that directly contribute to the overrepresentation of Indigenous, Black, and racialized peoples in our justice system. Canadians deserve a system that keeps us safe and is actually fair for everyone. So it's not about who commits a law, who breaks a law and ends up being convicted of it. It's about what color you are or what your ethnic background is. I suggested that if Canada needs more white men in prison to offset the higher percentage of non-whites, I hope you, Mr. Lametti, personally end up behind bars in order to help balance the scales. This is disgusting. This is the kind of thing that demoralizes people. This is why people break the law, right? No matter what color you are. It's like, well, the government is going to pull this crap. I mean, then there is no law. You know what I'm saying? This is an outrage.
We just removed from the I forget the region, but in Saskatchewan, the Native community that was terrorized by that psychopath who had how many violent crime things, and because he was Indigenous, he was sent to a healing lodge instead of a prison. And then he's out on a murder spree, and who dies? The Indigenous people. We have this perception wrongly that most crime is interracial. Let's say it's whites killing blacks, where it's actually most people commit crimes against people they know, right? So the number one abuser of white women is white men, black women, black men, Native women, Native men, Filipino women, Filipino men. This is a well-defined, well-understood stat that most crime is within your own community. So when we do these things, we pretend that like, oh yes, we've, the black people, because of racism, that's why they were committing crimes against these white oppressors. But in actual fact, it's most of the crimes black people commit are against black people or indigenous people, white people, white people. This is a true fact. So when you start to enable crime and say there's going to be no punishments for crime, like one of the reasons people don't commit crimes is either they were raised right, have good morals, or they see a deterrent and they say, if I do this, then X will happen. You've completely removed the deterrent, or as near as much as you can to remove the deterrent. Now, people will go ahead and commit crimes. And upper middle class neighborhoods and these people that you want to punish, these evil white upper middle class people, well, they'll always have money to have security, to have the leverage to get into, to make sure the police, covers their store. Like you understand as a criminal that if I go into the sort of like, let's say, if I try and rob a shop on Bay Street with those fancy like sidewalks out in front, they're going to investigate this. But if I hit up the local liquor store at Jane and Finch, the police are much more likely to go, okay, I'm not dealing with this, right? So the crime then disproportionately terrorizes the good law-abiding people in these communities that you claim that you're protecting. So this is more just leftist jibbity jabber, where they, again, and this ironically, this is not used to appeal to the racialized communities. This is done to appeal to upper middle class wine moms who want to think of themselves as progressive. And like, there's a few.
But everybody knows what the impact of this will be: more crime. I mean, if you're a racialized Canadian, and you think, well, I'm a victim, I'm allowed to commit crimes and get, good treatment because after all, I'm a victim. This actually works to incent more crime by individuals who think that they're going to get favorable treatment just by virtue of the fact that they are in a certain ethnic group. To me, this does the absolute opposite of what you think is intended, but I actually think it is intended to create more crime. I think we're being assaulted by these scumbags in government. I think they actually know that what they're doing is going to be counterproductive, including meaning more crime. But like we're under attack by these very people that we have entrusted to run government. In my opinion, they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, the point to that would be like the way governments make decisions is there's a crisis and then people want a solution, and then you give people a solution en masse. Post solution, they accept that something has been done and they're happy. So you create a crime wave. You're the liberals. You say, okay, we need to ban guns. We need to ban this. We need to institute these laws. And people initially, right, if you read the Toronto Star, you don't understand how anything in the world works. So you're like, okay, good. They're taking measures to ban crimes, right? The murder, like as I always say to this, like when murders happen, I don't know why the politicians don't decide to just make murder illegal, because then that would obviously stop it. I mean, why isn't there a law against murdering people? Like, that could be the solution. So you create these crime waves, you create these crime problems. It gives you the excuse to go to the people and say, aha, I have a solution. Instead of the solution being here's the causes down the road that are leading to it, right? The enabling, blah, 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 blah. You say, okay, we're going to take away guns and not just ban new sales of guns, but we're going to go door to door and confiscate guns forcefully from people, because it's really the farmers in Saskatchewan who have rifles to shoot at coyotes to protect their livestock. They're the ones who are creating these gangs inside Toronto, obviously. Like the gangs in Toronto are being run by these Saskatchewan farmers with their rifles. But to someone who reads the Toronto Star, this will make more than enough sense. And
yeah, I don't know. I see what these guys do, and it's like, I think, how do we make this situation worse for the people we hate? We do this. Okay, let's do it. I mean, that to me is their priority. That's their pretext for doing anything. How do we hurt people like Daniel Bordman? Great, let's do this. How do we make life more expensive, more miserable for people who don't really support us that much? That to me is what they do. And how do we make their lives more miserable in terms of providing incentive to actual criminals who are turning their neighborhoods into crime-infested areas? That's what we'll do. Yeah, we'll continue making it easy for people to get guns in from the United States while going after legal gun owners who don't vote for us anyway. I mean, these people are horrible. We have truly vile individuals running our government. And this idea that he's this kind of, oh, I don't know, well-meaning dolt, kind of amiable and kind of charming, not too smart, but at least he means well. I'm not buying that anymore. I'm not buying it anymore, Daniel. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I listen. I don't think Justin Trudeau is a genius by any means. Like, I'm not gonna, if humanity has to colonize Mars to save us, and we need the brightest minds on it, he's not in my top 4 billion. But by no means is he an idiot. But he can't be this stupid where he doesn't understand that fire is hot. This is the level we're talking at here, where everything he does categorically fails. The things the liberals propose, but again, I do think there is some ideological radicalism to it. I do think there's an element to that of he truly thinks for the greater good. He's in some way saving the planet. But there's a thing where I also do think he understands he's harming people. But this is sort of the mindset of the utopian, is the ends justify the means in a way. And yes, we're creating these crime waves and we're doing it, but by saying nice things, I will fight racism, and that causes more crime than not. So yes, crime will increase, but in 1,000 years, the world will be a better place.
Everything he's done, economically speaking, is a disaster. So now we're bringing in like record numbers of people into the country, half a million people per year. We don't have housing for the people already here. And so the good jobs are disappearing. Okay. Not all of them, but a lot of them, like a good paying gig, in the resource sector or whatever. Billions of dollars in investment are leaving the country because of his policies. And so he's doing the exact opposite. He's bringing a whole bunch of people in here. There's nowhere to put them, and there's not really a lot of good jobs. So are you not literally inviting more criminal activity in Canada by doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, one of the things though with the immigration and housing is it's not actually immigration that is the problem when it comes to housing. It's bad housing policy. Now, if you have bad housing policy like Canada does, where you don't allow people to increase supply, then you're going to have a disaster. So the fact that we can't build anything anywhere anytime because of all the regulations, and new housing projects are not coming up fast, and all of it's silly government housing. You don't just allow private sectors to just build houses and then house people. That's the main problem, right? So this is then compounded, right? If you have a housing policy that doesn't allow for private industry to match demand with supply, then you're going to have a rapid, one, not enough houses for people, and two, the houses are going to be crazy expensive. You can then exacerbate that by bringing in 500,000 immigrants. Right? Canada's a huge country. We have the places to put these people. We have the land to put these people. It just requires the ability for us to build houses and put the people, but we refuse to do that. Listen, I think the immigration targets are too high for Canada, but there are ways to, immigration doesn't matter the more libertarian your society is. If immigrants don't get government benefits, and we can have as many immigrants as we want. If immigrants don't get government benefits, if they are forced by themselves to get jobs, and we have a society that doesn't overregulate the building of houses, so we can have the supply of houses to meet them. Because if people will always want to live in houses or apartments, it's one of the things people like to do. So there's incentive for people with the materials to build houses, to build more houses to house the people, right? It's basic economics. But we live in a country that doesn't allow that natural, economic ecosystem to happen. So you look at places like Texas, which get massive influxes of immigration from different states and everywhere, but they don't have housing bubble crises because they let developers build houses, and people then live in those houses. And because supply keeps up with demand, there's no problem. But in Canada, we limit supply and then massively pump up demand, and then
and make everything else super expensive so that people have a harder time once they get here. I mean,
yeah,
if you've been promised a better standard of living by coming to Canada, if you've been told that things are going to be great, you're going to have more money, you're going to have a better life, and you get here and you find my life is not any better than it was back in Guatemala, where food is less expensive over there. I'm having trouble. I got to work all sorts of hours at Walmart stocking shelves or at Home Depot in order to try and get by. This sucks. I might as well start dealing drugs or get in a gang. I'm sorry, but I got to ask you this, Daniel, about the week ahead. Dramatic week ahead for Trudeau, ministers testifying at the Emergencies Act inquiry. What are you expecting to see?
Well, I'm going to spoil it for you. We followed the science and the experts, and I will always stand against racism and intimidation and homophobia. And my government stands by the science.
Thank you, Mr. Trudeau. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, my friend.
I got an advanced copy, like one of those Marvel movies. I got an advanced copy. Sorry, I've seen the script already.
It could be like Georgianne says. I might have to watch these guys obfuscate, lie, and squirm, but I think that could be frustrating if the questions are just softballs. Hopefully, there's somebody out there who will ask him some tough questions. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Daniel Bordman. So glad you could join us. Let's take a break. Back with more Newstalk Saga 960 and the Mark Petronas Show after this.